Welcome to the midterm exam review. This video contains problems 44 through 53. So let's start with problem number 44. We're going to solve a quadratic equation. So a lot of the times we move the number over onto the other side of the equal sign so that it can be equal to 0. In this case, I can see 40 is going to make 13. If I look at 8 and 5. That'll make 40 and that'll also make 13. So if I go ahead and set x plus 8 equal to 0, that'll give me x equals negative 8. And if I set x plus 5 equal to 0, then that'll give me x equals negative 5. And that'll be my answer. Okay, now, in some cases we can't factor, and in some cases we don't have to set it equal to 0. So let's look at some of those cases. For instance, on number 45, all I have to do is divide by 3. So I get x squared equals 10. If you square root both sides, then your answer is going to be x equals plus or minus the square root of 10. And just leave it like that, okay? When you square root, please make sure you look for the plus or minus in the answer on the exam. Notice that the reason why I could square root is because I have an x squared in the problem. Well, the last problem had an x squared, but the issue is that it also has this x. If you have an x, it won't work. You won't be able to use the square root method. It has to be just the x squared by itself in the problem. You can't have an x, okay? All right, let's try the next problem. Okay, so for this problem, it says to complete the square. Now, if the problem on the test said complete the square, and you decided to do this a different way, it'd be okay. However, what if the question is, what makes this problem into a perfect square? So I'm going to go ahead and move my 2 over to the other side. So I move that over, and I need a space in here for the perfect square, or the number that'll make it a perfect square. Okay? So in order to do that, my goal is to get to here, where I have x plus and x plus. And the number in here beside the x plus has to be the same number. So I look at the 6. The 6, if I take half of 6, that's going to be a 3 and a 3. Okay? So 3x and 3x make 6x. But in order to make this equation work, in order to make it equal, I have to tell what 3 times 3 is going to be, and that is 9. So I place a 9 in here, which basically I've totally changed the equation now. But in order for the equation to stay balanced, I'm going to place the 9 in here as well. So just putting a 9 into the equation means I put a 9 on the other side, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to 9 minus 2 is 7, okay? So now my answer is, or my problem is, x plus 3 squared equals 7. Now this problem becomes a square root problem, where we can just square root both sides. So I'm going to square root the left-hand side and square root the right. That's going to give me x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 7. Now all I have to do is just subtract 3 on the other side, and I get negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 7. And this is my final answer. Okay, so now let's try the next one. 47 has an inequality in it. the first thing I'm going to do is factor it. So I'm going to take 2x out of the expression, and I'll be left with x minus 4. If you look at it and you go 2x squared, and that makes negative 8x, okay? I'm pretending right now that it's equal to 0. I'll deal with the less than in just a second. But if I take this and go 2x equals 0, then I'm going to go x equals 0. If I take this and go x minus 4 equals 0, then x equals 4. So now I'm going to use my number line. I'm going to put these critical values on the number line, 0 and 4. And now I'm going to test the original equation with numbers around the number line. So let's test like -1, and we will test 2, and we'll test 5. Okay, so let's test -1 first. So 2 times -1 squared minus 8 times -1 is less than 0. Watch for PEMDAS here. -1 squared is going to be +1. So that's 1 times 2 plus a +8 is going to be 10. So 10 is not less than 0. Okay, so it is not true over here. All right. All right, let's do it again. So let's do the 5. So 2 times 5 squared minus 8 times 5. 25 times 2 is 50. 50 minus 2, 50 minus 40 is 10 again. 10 is not less than 0. So it's not going to work on this side either. This is going to be false as well. Okay. So now I'm going to try 2. For 2, I'm going to go 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 is less than 0. So just watch out for PEMDAS. You want to square this first. So I'm going to square this first. That's going to be 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And 8 minus 16 is a -8. Is -8 less than 0? Yes, that is true. So my answer is actually from here to here. Okay, so to write that, let's write it using interval notation. So if we write that, it'll be from 0 to 4 with the parentheses since it's not equal to. And that is our answer. For our next problem, we're going to solve a system of equations with a parabola and a line. All right, since these two are equal to each other, I basically can take this and substitute it in for y, or I can just set them equal to each other. So let's do that right now. So I've got x plus 5 equals, you know what, for some reason keep putting that one on the left hand side, and it doesn't matter which one you put on which side. Let's do this instead. X plus 10x plus 25 equals x plus 5. Okay, so now all I have to do is make it equal to 0, because I'm going to have to deal with the x squared. I'm going to solve based on the x squared. So if I subtract over the x, I'll have 9x, and if I subtract over the 5, I'll have plus 20 equals 0. Okay, now what I can do is factor. So that's going to be x plus 4 and x plus 5. Those two will make 9, and 4 times 5 is 20. So now let's solve. Okay, I will have x equals -4, and x equals -5, looking at both of those factors. Now, I'm not quite done, because what I need to do is create the intersection points for these two equations. So I'm going to put in my -4, and I'm going to put in my -5. But I'm missing something. So all I have to do is plug these numbers into the easiest equation, which I would say is probably this one right here. So we're going to go y equals -4 plus 5, so y equals 1. And then we're going to do it again. We're going to go y equals, and we're going to use the -5 this time. And this one was 1, but this one is 0, so we're going to put 0 here. So our answer is that the parabola and the line are going to intersect at -4, 1 and -5, 0. Okay, let's try the next problem. All right, so for 49 and 50, we are being asked to translate. And if you really understand how to translate or what's happening in the equation, you can do these in your head, okay? So the negative is going to reflect the parabola across the x-axis, so it's going to make it upside down, okay? The 3, remember, we want to know what the x really is. So this is going to make the x, or the parabola, move left 3. And the y is really just whatever the number is. So this means that we're going to move up 5. If we're reflecting across the x-axis, moving left 3 and up 5, then our answer should be C, reflect across the x-axis, translate 3 units to the left, and translate up 5. So our answer is C. Okay, now for 50, we're going to talk a little bit about something we've mentioned in class. If you get one of these, just remember that when the parabola is skinnier or wider, we call it a stretch. Okay, so again, reflect across the x-axis. Okay, this is the number that makes it skinnier, which is called the stretch. It's going to move left 4, and then it's going to move up to 5. So we need a reflect across the x-axis, stretch by a factor of 7, translate 4 units to the left, and 5 units up. In this case, the answer again is C. All right, so if you have any questions about these, please let me know. All right, let's try the next one. Our next problem has to do with a table. Now, it says that the fuel economy is at different speeds, x, and the fuel economy is the y. Okay, so basically the speed determines the fuel economy, or basically the fuel economy is dependent on the speed. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to realize that speed is x and MPG is y. Now we're going to put these into our stat button on the calculator. So the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to do stat edit. And you're going to have your L1 and your L2. And then you're going to put in all the x's on this side and all the y's go in this side. Make sure that 15 stays with 21.4 right across from each other. 25 is directly across from 26.6. Just keep them all in line. Okay, now after that you're going to go to stat, and then you're going to go to calculate. Okay, so stat, calculate, and then the last one you're going to pick is you're going to look to see what they're asking for. And they want a quadratic equation. So we're going to pick quadreg. All right, So after you do that, you'll push the enter key a few times, and then they will give you your formula and what your a, b, and c equals. So the formula they're going to give you is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, when they do that, go ahead and take the numbers that they give you and let's write out what the equation is supposed to be, because that's the format that it's supposed to be in. So the proper format is this. So what I've done is I've rounded to 3 decimals if needed, or I just left it alone. So my new equation is y equals negative 0.005x plus 0.586x plus 14. If your numbers are off slightly, it may be you're rounding, and you're going to have to be careful of that when answering the question. So let's do 52, because with 52, you've got, it says, use the quadratic model that models the data, model meaning equation, and they want you to find the data that will best fit the fuel economy for 52 miles an hour. So what we're going to do is take the 52 and plug it into x. Okay, sorry, I ran out of room. All right, so let's see if I can get rid of that. All right, so we've got 52 plugged in, and if I calculate that expression, that'll give me y equals let's see, 30.952. So for number 52, we actually plug in 52 and we get 30.952. So let's do 53. So we take the same equation, or quadratic model is what they're saying, and we're going to plug in 60 this time. So it's going to be y equals negative 0.005x, which is your 60, and then plus, 0.586 times 60 plus 14. And if I calculate that expression, I get y equals 31.16 for the answer. Okay? So, that is 51, 52, and 53. So we're done with this video. Please check out the other videos for this review, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.